danced on the marble tiles of the balcony, soaking the world in a cold silvery hue. The air was dense with melancholy. Vine stood still, her bare feet unmoving on the chilly floor, arms wrapped around her slightly swollen frame. Her 6-month baby bump gently pushing against the drenched fabric of her dress. Her hair clung to her skin. Her body shivered slightly, but it wasn't the rain that chilled her, it was everything else. She glanced down at her bump, her tears blending seamlessly with the drizzle on her cheeks. Maybe they were. She thought numbly. I'm a Gen X, a burden, a curse. Her mind spiraled again, replaying everything, the memory that never stopped haunting her 2 months ago. Vine had spoken casually to Yara, Thames' cousin's wife, trying to make sense of her husband's late-night returns. There was no malaise, only concern. A wife trying to understand why her once doting husband was always too busy, too tired, too absent. And Yara, she wasted no time. Didn't you know about Annette? She had said. Thames loved her. Everyone in the family knew. She used to visit often. They were even planning to marry, but her family refused. Lately he's been seeing her again, don't be near Vine. Vine had frozen, her lips had parted to deny it. To scream it wasn't true, because Thames loved her, didn't he? He always said he did, showed it in a million little ways. But she didn't know Yara's words stayed nesting inside her mind like venomous weeds. Soon doubt sprouted. Thames was always on his phone, typing. Never answering phone calls in front of her. Came home just before dawn. Then she saw Annette's number in his recent call logs. Her head shattered so violently she couldn't even breathe. Without thinking, she had stormed into the Kim mansion's living room, face tear-streaked, voice cracking as she yelled at Mr. and Mrs. Kim, accusing them for ruining her life, forcing Thames to marry her while he loved someone else. Thames had come running, disoriented and frantic, trying to understand what was happening, but she had screamed over his voice, cried until her knees gave out, and before he could catch her, she fainted. He rushed her to the hospital, and after the checkup, the doctor said, she's 4 months pregnant, weak physically, mentally exhausted. She must avoid stress at all costs. But stress had already planted roots inside her soul. When they returned home, Thames tried explaining, but Vine refused. She accused, cried, argued, threw pillows, screamed in agony, and that became a part of her routine every single day. His silence became her proof, his patience became her enemy. So he gave up trying to explain. He let her scream, let her blame him, because he didn't know how else to help her anymore. She changed rooms, stopped eating properly, stopped sleeping. She never looked at him, not even once, only stalked him on social media. Until 2 days ago, when he snapped. He stormed into her room, ignoring her protest, and carried her back to their bedroom despite her kicking and screaming. He didn't shout, he just held her tight. Now standing in the rain again, she felt that same hollow ache creep into her chest. Vine. His deep voice broke the silence behind her. She flinched. It's raining, you'll get sick. She didn't turn, but her voice trembled as she whispered, Why did you keep me in the dark, Thames? A pause. He sighed and ran a frustrated hand through his wet hair. Please come inside, Vine. We'll talk about it later. At least have mercy on your health, on your state. She turned to him, rain cascading down her face, hiding the fresh tears, but he could still see the agony in her eyes. Mercy. She laughed bitterly, voice cracking. Where was your mercy when you fooled me? He stepped closer cautiously, his voice quieter. Let me explain at least. It's my fault. I should have told you about Annette earlier. Yes, I have been in contact with her, but that is because Vine suddenly snapped, pushing him with all her strength. Then why didn't you tell me about your past earlier? He stumbled back slightly, eyes wide. Because I didn't think it was necessary. She laughed, a harsh, broken laugh that made his stomach churn. But I told you about my past, didn't I? I told you about my engagement with Keenan. I trusted you, and you, she sobbed. You made me look like a fool. Then stepped forward again, desperate. Vine, I love you, only you. That's what matters to me. The past is past, Annette. Let's divorce. Her voice was cold, flat, certain. He stood still, the words cut through his soul like a blade. Do you even know what you're saying? He asked in disbelief, taking another step to her and reaching out to hold her. Don't come near me, don't touch me. She screamed suddenly, stepping closer to the balcony edge, eyes wide. Stay away or I'll jump. His heart stopped. Vine, he barked, stepping backward instantly, hands raised. Fine, I won't come closer. Just please move away from there, please. She stood still, unmoving, drenched and trembling, eyes glassy. Let's divorce, we'll divorce. She muttered again and again like a mantra. He bit his lip hard until it bled, eyes tearing up. We'll talk about it after the baby's born. You need to take care of yourself first. Her eyes fell on her belly, her voice was numb. The baby, it's the problem, right? Let's end it. Before he could comprehend, Vine started punching her on stomach with both fists. Vine, no, Thames bolted forward like lightning, grabbed her wrists mid-air with a loud roar, pulling her back violently. His hand rose in reflex. He was about to slap her but stopped. His hand hovered inches from her cheeks. Vine flinched, staring at him, at his hand, at his face, then down into her belly. Her lips trembled, her eyes widened in horror. Her knees buckled. What was I doing? She whispered brokenly, as if snapped out of possession. What was I doing? Then wrapped his arms around her instantly, pulling her into his chest as she collapsed, crying so hard that it tore through him. I'm a terrible mother. I don't deserve to be a mother. She sobbed over and over. He held her tighter, his own tears streaming silently as he kissed her hair. He carried her into the bedroom and sat her on the couch, whispering calming words, his voice low and hoarse. He made her drink warm water, gave her the medicines, sat beside her carefully drying her hair with a towel. She didn't say a word. When he softly offered to help her change, she shook her head weakly. I'll do it. He nodded and brought her dry clothes. When he returned, she had changed, sitting on the edge of the bed, holding her belly, whispering apologies to the baby with tears in her eyes. His heart cracked. Where was his wine? The wine who used to smile while stealing his fries, who used to cuddle into him at night and mumble sleepy I love yous. What had she become? What had he done? He walked over slowly, helped her to bed, tugging the blanket around her carefully. He climbed to his side silently. She suddenly whispered his name. Think. He turned. I want to go to my brother's place. His eyes closed momentarily. For how many days? He asked quietly. I don't know. Maybe forever. His jaw clenched, but he forced himself to nod. He pulled her into his arms, gently pressing his lips to her temple. I'm sorry, he whispered, for raising my hand. I didn't mean to. Wine didn't speak, only closed her eyes. And then thought maybe she needs the distance, maybe she will heal. But divorce, no, that was never an option. She drifted off in his arms. One could still feel his kisses on her forehead, his trembling fingers caressing her cheek. And somewhere in her shattered mind, she realized he was hurting too. Just as much as her, maybe even more. 2 months later, Wan had spent the past 2 months in her brother Oberon's house after leaving her martial home, refusing every call, every visit, every attempt from him to reach out. Her pride wouldn't let her meet him. Her pain wouldn't let her forgive him. But even now, she stalked him daily. His social media, his stories, even his old pictures. And yes, Ernest. She would overthink until her temples pulsed, until she threw up bile, until her tears soaked her pillow. She would whisper to herself, did he really lie? Did he really love her? Was I ever enough? Her fingers unconsciously stroking her swollen belly, 8 months pregnant and exhausted, not just physically but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Her soul felt like it had been crumpled and left in a forgotten corner. She stared blankly, lips chapped, dark circles haunting her eyes. Her phone lied. Hundreds of unread messages, all from him. At first, Oberon and Bella were warm, supportive even, but slowly things changed. Bella's polite tone became edged with sarcasm. Her questions began to sound like criticisms. Her presence became unbearable. And Oberon, her sweet big brother, had become distant. She had overheard him on the phone with Thames, snapping angrily. Thames, stop calling every hour. She's fine. If you cared this much, you should have treated her better rather than cheating. Her heart sank. She realized that her place in this house was shrinking. Her respect was slipping. There was a stark difference between messaging for a few days and living under someone else's roof. She was an emotional burden now. A few days ago, she had collapsed in the bathroom. The stress had taken a toll. Her blood pressure had dropped. She was rushed to the hospital. When she opened her eyes, there Thane was. He sat quietly beside her, holding her hand gently. His eyes were bloodshot, his voice hoarse. Don't stress, love, please, for our baby. She kept her eyes closed, pretended to sleep. He kissed her baby bump. She heard his tears fall. He left without a word, and she regretted it ever since. Today, her elder brother, Leif, and his wife, Aurelia, had come from abroad. Her heart fluttered at the familiar warmth they brought. Aurelia was sitting beside her now, holding her cold hand. Wine, she said softly. Until when do you want to stay here? Before Wine could respond, with a sharp voice rang from the doorway. She can stay as long as she wants, but I doubt she even knows where she belongs now. Aurelia's expressions hardened. She turned slowly to glare at her. Then maybe you should focus on your own marriage, Villa, instead of taunting a woman who's 8 months pregnant and fighting for her sanity. Villa scoffed and rolled her eyes, muttering under her breath, always playing the victim. Then she stormed out of the room. Wine's eyes brimmed with tears. She looked at Aurelia, lips trembling. She began. I didn't want this on me. Aurelia pulled her close and kissed her temple. You don't deserve this, Wine. This is the time where every woman needs her husband the most, not distant relatives picking your wounds. Tears rolled down Wine's cheeks, but he cheated on me. Aurelia caressed her damp hair. Did you see him in bed with another woman? Wine hesitated no. Did he even get a chance to explain? She asked. Wine shook her head. I heard it from Yara only. She said they were in a relationship. He even admitted he saw her. I got scared only. Everyone says I'm a Gen X. Mom died while giving birth to me. Dad died on my engagement day. Keenan disappeared out of nowhere. Leif's brother got into an accident on my wedding day. How can I ever be happy? I bring misfortune. Aurelia's eyes widened with disbelief. She held Wine's face. Wine stopped, just stopped right there. Your mother died due to hospital's negligence. Your father died naturally. He had a heart condition. Keenan didn't disappear. He was arrested for fraud. Leif's accident happened because he was drunk and reckless. Wine stared blankly. You had nothing to do with any of this. Stop blaming yourself for fate's mistake, and stop listening to people who envy your happiness. Well, Yara, they don't want to see you thrive, but think She paused, squeezing her hand. He does, he still does. No one calls daddy like that unless their heart is breaking. And you have hurted him, Wine, deeply. Wine sobbed. I know, I said horrible things to him. I told his family about Annette. I made him look like a liar. I should have kept it between us. I feel terrible. Aurelia nodded. Yes, you were wrong, but this is the time to make it right. If your mother was here, she would have told you. Keep your husband's trust. Keep your home sacred. Wine lowered her head. Aurelia smiled and lifted her chin. Now I and Leif are here to take you to our home. You're not staying with Willa anymore. Her eyes welled up again. Only how long will you stay? Until your baby arrives. Aurelia said warmly. Wine placed her hand gently over her belly. I want to go back to Thane. I miss him. I can't live without him. Aurelia chuckled. Your face tells me that already, but let me tell you he's worse than you. That man looks like he's been dying a little every day. Wine opened her mouth to reply, but stopped when the door opened. Leif walked in, smiling warmly. There's my baby sister. How are you feeling? Wine smiled tearfully. I'm okay. He kissed her forehead and sat beside her. You just look like Mom, I swear. She sniffled. And you sound just like that. Leif laughed. Well, someone has to be wise one. Just then Oberon entered the room. His phone pressed to his ear. He looked grim. He declined the call and looked at them. Wine's body froze. Whatever thing. Leif straightened. What's wrong? Oberon hesitated. He was in a car crash. It was bad. He's in a critical condition. The words hit Wine like a hammer to chest. Her heart stopped. Her eyes widened. Then everything went dark. She collapsed instantly. Leif caught her just in time. Her body was limp. Aurelia rushed to her, rubbing her cold hands. Oberon, start the car now. Wine was rushed to the hospital. She lay cautious in emergency room, pale and still. Monitors beeped, nurses rushed in and out. The doctor's voice was serious, sharp. We'll have to deliver the baby now. It's premature, but the stress has caused severe complications. Get the OT ready. We'll proceed with the C-section. She can't handle full anesthesia in this state. Aurelia broke down in Leif's arms. Leif held her tight, fighting back tears. Inside the OT, Wine's baby was delivered hours later, tiny, fragile, wrapped in a soft pink. A nurse whispered, it's a girl. Outside, Leif stood by the window praying. Aurelia wept silently. Oberon sat with his head in his hands, and miles away in another emergency ward. Theo lay in a bed, bruised, unconscious, tubes in his nose. Neither of them knew the other was alive, but their souls were screaming for each other. 3 days later. 3 days passed in a blur of antiseptic air, slow beeping machines, and muffled prayers whispered into the sterile silence. And then her lashes fluttered. Wine's eyes opened slowly, as if awakening from the deepest, heaviest sleep of her life. Her gaze was unfocused at first, the world around her spinning gently, the white ceiling above her buzzed with a faint light. Her limbs felt heavy, her throat dry, her head aching with dull pressure. She blinked again, slowly turning her head, a soft gasp. Wine, Aurelia cried, rushing forward. She's awake, Leif, Oberon. Footsteps thundered into the hospital room, and in seconds, Leif and Oberon were standing by her bedside. Wine, hey, can you hear me? Leif cupped her face gently. You scared the hell out of us. Oberon murmured, adjusting her pillow and lifting the bed up so she could sit. Wine gave them a weak, fragile note. Then her chapped lips parted. Theo. Her voice came out cracked, barely a whisper. Where's Theo? The warmth in the room died in an instant. The three exchanged glances, that kind of glance only adults share when there's too much pain to put into words. Aurelia's shoulders tensed. Oberon looked away. Leif cleared his throat, forcing a smile. Wine, your daughter is here. A little angel. She's okay. She's in ICU since she came early, but she's fighting just like her mother. Wine blinked. Daughter, her eyes widened and she gave slightly, trying to sit up. Leif and Oberon gently helped her. I had the baby, she asked in disbelief. Aurelia nodded with a teary smile. Yes, a girl, she's beautiful one. She's premature, so she's in the neonatal ICU for monitoring. Do you want to see her? Oberon uttered softly. Wine didn't answer. She looked at them, eyes trembling, her lower lip quivering. How is Theo? Silence. Why aren't you answering me? She choked. Are you hiding something? Aurelia's expression broke, her jaw clenched as she turned her face away. Leif's lips pressed into a tight line before he moved closer and wrapped his arms around her gently. Wine, he's in a coma, he whispered. Wine froze. His voice shook. His car was throttled. Head trauma, his lungs collapsed. The doctors are doing everything that they can, but they're not hopeful. Her heart stopped, her ears rang, the world began spinning again. She stared at him, horrified. You're lying. Please tell me you're lying, she whispered. Leif held her tighter, caressing her hair as tears streamed down his face. Aurelia sniffled, silently wiping her tears, while Oberon looked away, jaw clenched. Wine shook her head, shaking in Leif's arms. No, he can't. He promised he wouldn't leave me. I didn't even say sorry. I didn't say I love him. I didn't. She broke into a gut-wrenching sob, fist clinging to Leif's shirt. I want to see him, she screamed. Please let me see him. At that moment, the door creaked open and Willa stepped inside, her voice rising through the silence. Mr. and Mrs. Kim are here to see Wine. Leif gently pulled away from her, wiping her tears with a tissue and kissing her forehead. Be strong, little sis. He needs you now more than ever. Aurelia leaned in and pressed a soft kiss on her cheek. We'll be outside. Oberon lingered by the door, giving her a long look and followed them out. Willa walked over, patting Wine's shoulder. She said softly before turning and leaving as Mr. and Mrs. Kim entered. Mrs. Kim's eyes were red, her expression very. She moved swiftly, sitting on the stool beside Wine's bed and taking her hand in hers. Wine whimpered, Mom, Theo. Mrs. Kim's composure crumbled as she broke into tears. Wine's cries grew louder, her chest heaving with every sob. Behind them, Mr. Kim stood with his arms folded, face stony. Mrs. Kim stood and pulled Wine into a tight hug, gently cradling her as if she were her own daughter. Baby, you need to be strong, she whispered, running her hand through Wine's hair. For your daughter, he will wake up. He has to. They cried together, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, two women bound by love for the same man. When the storm of tears finally dulled into quiet hiccups, Wine pulled back and looked up. I want to see him. Mrs. Kim wiped her tears, brushing Wine's hair back. You need to rest too. You just had a C-section, sweetheart. Your stitches. I don't care, she asked. Please, I'll stay in the wheelchair. I want to hold his hand. Mrs. Kim's heart broke further at the desperation in her voice. Wine looked up at Mr. Kim with trembling eyes. I'm sorry for what I said before, for everything I did. Mr. Kim's cold gaze remained still for a few more seconds, then without a word he stepped forward. He raised his hand and gently patted her head. Wine's lips parted in shock, eyes instantly filling with tears again. A small smile tugged on the corner of his lips, almost too faint to notice before he turned away. We'll go see him now, he said stiffly. You rest. You can see him after you're discharged. Your daughter needs you. She nodded weakly, holding back a sob. Before leaving, Mr. Kim turned again and looked at her once more. Don't give up hope. He's still fighting. And with that, he walked out with Mrs. Kim. 15 minutes passed, the door opened again. Villa entered first holding a blanket and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. You should go see your daughter now. She's doing well, she said. Aurelia followed in with a wheelchair. Come on, she said gently. She needs her mother too. One gave a faint note. They helped her slowly into the wheelchair, Aurelia's hand steadying her trembling body. Villa silent for once. As they wheeled her down the corridor, One leaned her head back, her palm resting over her staged abdomen. Her soul ached. Her husband was fighting for his life. Her daughter was barely clinging to hers. But somehow One was ready to fight for both of them. 3 months later, the faint hum of the monitor and the soft ticking of the clock were the only sounds filling the hospital room where Kim Thin had been lying unconscious for last 3 months. Outside his room, One sat curled in a plastic chair, her face pale, eyes sunken and body fragile from exhaustion. Her once vibrant smile had been replaced by a haunting stillness. Her daughter, her tiny miracle, was now 3 months old and finally strong enough to leave the ICU. But for Wine, the world hadn't really shifted. She was caught in time, stuck between the heartbeat of a man who wouldn't wake up and the quiet breath of a baby who didn't understand what she had already lost. Everyone, Aurelia, Mrs. Kim, Leif, Oberon had pleaded with her to rest, but she didn't listen. She was aided by Thane's side, gently brushing his hair and whispering apologies, or in the nursery, holding their baby and telling her about the father she had never met. Wine's days and nights had bled into each other like forgotten pages in a diary. She had forgotten herself. All that remained was her daughter and Thane. One evening she was going toward Thane's room when she saw Annette coming out. Wine, Annette whispered, her voice filled with compassion and sorrow. I just heard. I'm sorry about Thane. Wine nodded faintly, her lips too dry to form words. She simply looked down at her daughter. I came not just to see you, but to thank you, Annette said, moving closer, her eyes tearing up. Wine blinked, her expression distant. Months ago, Thane helped me, Annette said, voice quivering. When my husband was hurting me, I had no one. I was already ready to give up. Wine's arms tightened around the baby. Thane helped me file a case, got me legal help, paid for my tickets back home. I'm with my parents now. I'm safe because of him. Anne's lips trembled. He really loves you. Every time I met him. She looked directly into Wine's eyes. Wine's breath hissed. You're so lucky, Wine, to be loved like that. A single tear slid down Wine's cheek as her entire world tilted. She had misunderstood him. She had left him, blamed him, hated him, and yet he protected her name like a prayer. The guilt crushed her like a wave. Annette stepped forward and gently touched her arm. No, Wine returned to Thane's room, this time with trembling arms holding their baby girl, a soft pink bundle of life. Thane lay still, his face as peaceful as it had been for weeks, his lashes like shadow on his cheeks, his lips pale and parted. Thane, she whispered as tears rolled down her cheeks. Please wake up. She kissed her baby's forehead and stepped closer. This is your daughter, she said in a shaky voice. Our baby girl, she's finally healthy and she needs her father. Her hands trembled as she slowly, carefully laid the infant on his chest. The baby blinked up at the man, who lay so still beneath her, her small hands twitching as if trying to understand. She looks like you, Wine whispered through a sob. Please don't leave us. The room was silent, and then unable to take the pain any longer, gently picked up the baby back up and walked out. Moments after she left, Mr. and Mrs. Kim entered the room. Mr. Kim was quiet, his hand clasped behind his back, while Mrs. Kim sat beside the bed, gently fixed the blanket over Thane. Suddenly his fingers twitched. Mrs. Kim gasped, honey. Mr. Kim rushed forward, call the doctor now. The doctors came running, disbelief clouded their faces as the once hopeless his nose stayed, his lashes fluttering, his breath catching in his throat, and then his eyes opened. It was slow, strained but real. The monitors beeped in response. Nurses ran about. The doctor whispered, stunned, it's a miracle, there was no hope. This shouldn't even be possible. Wine returned after feeding the baby into the room, but her breath caught as she saw Thane sitting awake. Her daughter whimpered quietly in her arms, but Wine couldn't hear anything past the rushing sound in her ears. Silent tears ran down her cheeks as she walked to him. Her knees nearly gave out. Ken's eyes found hers instantly. His gaze was heavy, full of pain, full of longing. But then they slowly drifted down to the bundle in her arms. A tear slid down his face, one step closer. He tried to lift his hand, but it was weak, shaking. Mr. Kim took it gently and guided it toward the baby's back, placing it there, letting him feel his daughter for the first time. His lips trembled, his chest hitched, one bit down on her lip, her body trembling from head to toe. She slowly sat beside him and rested her head near his shoulder as the baby lay against his chest. Mrs. Kim was already crying, her hand clutching her husband's sleeve. Mr. Kim, stoic and composed as always, gently wiped his eyes and placed a soft hand on Ken's shoulder. "You came back," he whispered gruffly. "That's all that matters." Ken's eyes never left wine. "And the child?" His lips parted, trying to speak, but the doctor softly intervened. "His vocal cords and muscles have been dormant. He'll need speech therapy and physical therapy, but he's back." Ken couldn't speak, Wine couldn't stop crying. Their daughter grinned at her father, her tiny hand twisting the fabric of his gown. And in that moment, in the silence, in the soft cries and shallow breaths, there was everything. Regret, love, pain, hope. And the aching pull of two broken souls finding each other again. Ken's gaze remained locked on her, even as his tears fell. He didn't need to say anything, because in Wine's heart she knew. He waited, he had forgiven, and he still loved her. Time skip. Doctors said it would take 6 months for Ken to stand again, but he did it in 4 weeks. A miracle they called it, but Ken didn't believe in miracles. He believed in will, in pushing through pain and healing for the sake of those who made life worth living, for Wine, for their little princess. With regular therapy sessions alongside Mr. Kim and constant emotional support from his mother, who now looked after both Wine and the baby Mahlet as if her own life depended on it, Ken had not only regained his strength but returned to his duties as the CEO. Still, every free second he had, he spent it with Mahlet, holding her, humming to her, whispering secrets in her tiny ears. He had named her Mahlet, but Wine, she had gone quiet. Silent smiles, hollow notes. She barely looked at them, and when she did, it was with guilt swimming behind her eyes. She had no idea what to say to the man she loved, the man she had doubted, hurt, nearly lost. Sometimes she would find herself watching Ken and Mahlet from the shadows, the way he cradled her so gently against his shoulder, how he pressed soft kisses on her forehead, how he laughed when she yawned, and every time Wine would feel the ache again. "I don't deserve them." Tonight was same. She sat up on the bed, rocking Mahlet in her arms after feeding her. Her eyelids fluttered, exhaustion creeping over her. She blinked to stay awake, rocking her back and forth. Just then the bathroom door clicked open and Ken stepped out, towel rubbing through his damp hair, water glistening on his bare shoulders, his chest rising and falling with post-shower warmth. Wine quickly looked away, cheeks burning. "You sleep? I'll put her to sleep," he said, gently tossing the towel aside and reaching for a shirt. Wine hesitated, her fingers clung just a little tighter to Mahlet, but when he approached smelling of fresh soap and mint, she didn't resist. He leaned down, his scent washing over her, and their eyes locked. Her breath hitched as his fingers brushed hers, taking Mahlet into his arms with practiced ease. He cradled her close to his heart, and without a word, pulled the blanket over Wine. She muttered, "Put her in the crib once she's asleep." Ken only nodded and switched off the light, settling beside her on the bed, humming softly while rocking Mahlet. His gaze, however, was elsewhere, fixed on Wine's face, memorizing the curve of her cheek, the paleness in her lips, the guilt stitched into her lashes. After a while, he reached out and brushed her hair back. A whisper left him before he could stop it. "I miss you, Wine. You're so close to me yet so far. When will this distance end?" Moments later, Wine, barely half asleep, shifted. Her eyes opened faintly, the moonlight cast a silver glow across the room. She propped herself up, staring at her daughter, cooled peacefully on Ken's chest. "I'll lie her in the crib," she said, voice hoarse. He blinked at her. "Why are you awake?" She gently took Mahlet from his arms. "You know I'm always restless until she's in her crib. You should also rest now." He only hummed. Wine leaned over the crib and softly kissed her daughter's forehead, lying her down gently. Then she turned to lie, but only to find Ken still sitting upright, eyes distant, lost in thought. She hesitated and scooted closer, her fingers barely brushing his arm. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. Ken turned his face to her slowly, then raised up gently, tucking her hair behind her ear with fingers that trembled faintly. His voice cracked. "How long are we going to be like this?" Wine's throat tightened. She looked away and held his hand to her face. We are good." A bitter chuckle rumbled from his chest. "You are so good that you avoid me." "I'm not avoiding you," she said quickly, gripping his hand. "Why would I avoid you?" His brow raised, and then she broke, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm just ashamed of my behavior. I don't deserve you. I don't deserve her." She glanced at Mahlet, her lips trembling. "I tried to kill her. I hurt you without listening to a word of explanation." Ken's heart clenched. He pulled her into his arms tightly, resting his chin on top of her head, kissing her hair over and over. "You did wrong," he whispered. "But clinging to it won't heal you. You're punishing yourself too much, love." He pulled back and gently cupped her face. "Look at yourself. You have lost so much weight. You don't eat, you don't sleep, you pretend you're okay, but I know you're not." And these tears, he wiped them away softly. "They have become a part of you, and that breaks me," Wine whimpered. "I'm sorry, 𝐶𝐤. I shouldn't have to leave Yara on me. I should have trusted you. Sam kissed her cheeks, I star. Only if Yara had minded her own home instead of feeding poison into ours, maybe her husband wouldn't have cheated. One blinked what? He sighed, eyes softening. Thought I would tell you once she was safe with her family. One blinked, brushing her nose against his. Annette told me when she came to see you. She told me everything. Then exhaled, leaning his forehead to hers, as if finally releasing the weight of 1,000 regrets. I was with Annette in high school, man. That had been so long. Our personalities were different, so we just remained friends. She was our neighbor. I kissed his cheek and whispered, I'm sorry. Let's let go of the past. Start again, he whispered. She nodded, tears shining. Can I ask something? Anything, he said softly. The accident night you weren't on the way to office, were you? I leaned back, I insisted. No, I was drunk. I missed it. I wanted to forget the pain, the distance. I drank too much. One pressed her face into his chest. That night, I decided to come back home. Sam's arms wrapped around her tight and protected. Did it hurt during the C-section? She shook her head faintly. I don't remember much. They couldn't fully sedate me because of my high blood pressure. They gave me a spinal injection. It felt like a snake bite. He kissed her crown and held her tighter. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I pushed you away. He cupped her face, whispering gently. You need to forgive yourself too, Angel. I just want you back. Nothing else matters. She leaned in, brushing her lips against his. I love you, Sam. I love you more. He whispered, kissing her again, this time slower, longer. She touched his face with trembling fingers. Even when I'm hard to love. His eyes softened. Love asks for patience, for understanding. Some things need to be forgiven. Some things need to be ignored. He caressed her cheek. Your soul fits mine, even on the days you're hard to love. I'll still choose you. She buried her face in his neck. You leave me speechless every time. I don't deserve it. He pulled her face gently away, wiping her tears. No more tears. He then kissed her deeply. A kiss full of longing, forgiveness, passion, devotion. Everything he couldn't say with words. She responded with equal desperation. Hovered above her slowly, Reverend. I miss you, he whispered against her skin. I miss you too. She whispered, tears of healing glistening in her lashes. They lay tangled in each other's arms, her legs over his, cheeks flushed and lips bruised from kisses. He traced pattern over her bare shoulder. What I feel for you is something I have never felt before. You make me feel, you make me dream. She kissed his chest. You're my home, Theo. He smiled, brushing her hair back. You're mine too. Even when I cry too much and doubt too quickly. Even when you push me away. Even when you hide behind silence. Even when your love is messy, I'll still be here, he said. One giggled through her tears. You make me feel safe. And you give me purpose, he whispered. Their hands intertwined, bodies pressed, heartbeats synced. I want to grow old with you, she whispered. He kissed her slowly. Then let's start again, not from the beginning, from here, from where we are now. She nodded, curling into him. The room still smelled faintly of baby lotion and lavender, a scent that had become her comfort. The peaceful sound of soft breathing came from the bed where their 4-month-old son lay curled up like a kitten, splayed above his head. Her smile was serene, her face glowing with warmth and love and exhaustion. The case of a toddler and a newborn didn't let her rest much, but her heart had never been fuller. She stepped out of the closet and paused mid-step, blinking at the disaster Mahlet had left behind in the room. Stuffed animals, dolls, building blocks, a sock somehow stuck to the wall. It looked like a battleground of joy. With a small sigh, she got down on her knees and started picking up the mess when the door creaked open. Why haven't you left for work yet? She asked without looking up, already knowing who it was. He leaned against the door frame dramatically, eyes narrowed with mischief. His hair was slightly tousled and the sleeves of his shirt were rolled up, veins peeking. Because he drawled, stepping in slowly. My wife is too busy for me these days. I feel like a decorative item in this house. Wine let out a breathy laugh, looking up at him as he approached and flung his long arms around her from behind. That's not true, she said, ruffling his hair as he buried his face in her neck like a sulking child. Then why is it that all your time belongs to the babies and then to your poor, starving, lonely husband? He whined. Because those babies are your doing, mister. She retorted, turning around in his arms. And all of my time is ours, not just mine. He snorted, feigning betrayal. You lie. Look at you, glowing and beautiful, even after birthing 2 gremlins. My goddess wife walking around here like she doesn't know the effect she has on me. Her cheeks flushed. They don't start. He smiled devilishly. Your face is glowing, your waist is smaller, and his hands started sliding over her curves, pressing her flesh against him. Your everything is looking dangerous. She squared, slapping his chest. Mahlet will come here in any second. As if on cue, the door burst open. Mama. Ken jumped back like he had been shot. Damn it, he muttered under his breath. One bit her lips, stifling a laugh as Mahlet marched in. Hands on her tiny hips, expression one of righteous fury. You promised me a new tea set and doll. She accused Wine with pout. And you didn't, Mama is bad. You should scold her daddy. Wine's jaw dropped. Excuse me, when did I promise you that? Mahlet stomped her foot. You said maybe, and maybe means yes. Ken blinked at the absurd logic and tried not to laugh. She's spoiled, Wine said with a groan. This is all your fault. No, it's yours. Daddy punished Mama, Mahlet huffed. Ken gasped in mock horror. Punish her, but she's Mama. She spanked me yesterday when I spilled juice. Spank her like that. One stared in horror. Mahlet. Ken couldn't hold it anymore. He burst into laughter, throwing his head back, his chest shaking. I can't breathe, he gasped. Mahler smiled innocently, looking proud of herself while Wine glared, arms crossed. I swear she's turning into a brat, Wine muttered. She's your daughter, he said between laughs. Your genes are dominant, she retorted. They wiped away a tear, she's my karma. Just then Mr. Kim's voice echoed from downstairs. Mahler, come here. With a dramatic gasp, Mahler jumped from Theo's arms and ran out of the room like a squirrel. Wine shook her head in disbelief. That child is too much, but Theo wasn't done. His laughter died into a smirk as he leaned closer. You're worse than her. Wine raised a brow. Excuse me. He leaned in, nose brushing hers. You pretend to be mature, but you're more of a brat than our daughter. I live with two brats, and they both run my life. He sighed more tragic. She smiled his arm, but he just grinned, cupping her face and pressing a kiss to her cheek. You gave me 2 bundles of blunder, and I love them too damn much. Wine flushed, caught in his gaze again. Her breath hedged slightly as he leaned in, kissing the tip of her nose. You're glowing, he murmured. And not just because you're a mom, you're glowing because you're happy again. Her eyes softened, because I have you. Just then their baby boy stirred and let out a cry. Thank groaned loudly. No one lets me have my wife to myself for even 10 minutes. Wine giggled and kissed his forehead before going to the bed. He flowed backward onto the couch, tossing a cushion over his face. She picked up their son and gently cradled him to her chest, humming softly as he nuzzled in for feeding. Tim peeked from under the cushion, watching the love of his life rocking their son. Something in his chest bloomed painfully sweet. Even with all the cues, he wouldn't trade this for anything in the world. Once their son was asleep again, Wine carefully laid him down, tiptoed over and closed the bedroom door. She turned to Theo, who was scrolling on his phone with a dramatic pout. Without a word, she walked over and climbed into his lap. He blinked in surprise, his phone slipping from his hand as her arms wrapped around his neck. No one will disturb us now, she whispered. He melted instantly. Finally, he breathed, cupping her cheeks, pulling her in for a deep, hungry kiss. His lips trailed down to her neck, sucking gently, his breath hot against her skin. You're still obsessed with me, she teased, breathless. I never stopped, he said between kisses. You have no idea how hard it is living in a house with you and not being able to touch you every second. She giggled, cupping his cheeks. Poor baby, he grinned. Say it again. Poor baby, she caught, ruffling his hair. You spoil me. His grin widened. And I'll keep doing that, she said softly. Then let's have a third baby, he said with a smirk. Thank. He burst into laughter, arms tightening around her. She smiled him playfully, but her eyes were full of love. They stayed like that for a while, wrapped in each other, surrounded by the soft breath of sleeping child and warmth of a home they built together from the ruins of heartache. He tugged a strand of hair behind her ear. I love you, brat. I love you more, idiot.